The world is a shroud of white. Snowflakes drift like ash from a dying fire, settling on the skeletal arms of ancient pines that claw at a leaden sky. The Ardennes slumbers under this fresh mantle, a deceptive peace cloaking the frozen veins of Belgium's highlands. Temperature hovers at -10°C, the kind of cold that doesn't bite. It seeps, turning breath to crystal fog, fingers to brittle twigs. The air carries the faint, resinous tang of evergreens, undisturbed save for the muffled crunch of boots on virgin powder. A narrow road snakes through the ghost town of Lanzerath, its cobblestones buried under drifts that mound against half-timbered houses like forgotten gravestones. Smoke curls lazily from a solitary chimney, the only sign of life in this hamlet perched on the edge of nowhere. To the east, the Aar River murmurs its icy protest, a silver thread dividing American lines from the shadowed Reich beyond. The 99th Infantry Division, the battle babies raw from stateside training, holds this sector with a threadbare grip. 500 miles of front stretched taut as a bowstring, manned by greenhorns who mistook foxholes for fox hunts back home. Eisenhower's brass has dismissed the Ardennes as a ghost front, a quiet bulge in the line where Hitler licks his wounds after Normandy's mauling. But in Berlin's bunkers, the Führer's fever dreams brew a counterstroke. Wacht am Rhein, the Ardennes offensive. 250,000 Germans, veterans of the Eastern Front, SS fanatics forged in the fires of atrocity, poised to smash through like a black tide, aiming for Antwerp's ports to split the Allies asunder. The surprise is total. At 5:30 hours, artillery thunders from the Siegfried Line. A rolling peal that shatters the dawn's hush. Shells whistle like banshees, cratering forests and splintering the illusion of winter's truce. Paratroopers of the 3rd Fallschirmjäger drop into the mist-shrouded valleys, while Kampfgruppe Peiper, Joachim Peiper's elite SS Panzer spearhead, revs its engines in the gloom. 5,000 strong, tigers and panthers belching diesel fumes that mingle with the cordite reek. But here, on Lanzerath Ridge, a modest spine of earth rising 300 feet above the Loschheim Gap, guardian to the vital approach on Elsenborn Ridge, the war's first whisper arrives not with thunder, but with the scrape of shovels. First Lieutenant Lyle Bouck Jr., 20 years old, stands atop the crest, his breath clouding the collar of his field jacket. Farm-raised in Missouri's flatlands, Buck is a lanky figure with eyes like polished flint. Sharp, unyielding, the eyes of a boy who once traced Civil War maps by lamplight, dreaming of battles that echoed his grandfather's yarns. No West Point polish for him. He's a pre-war enlistee, risen through the ranks on smarts and stubbornness. His platoon, 18 souls, a ragtag intelligence and reconnaissance outfit from the 394th Regiment, labors around him, entrenching per orders from V Corps. Observe and report, hold if pressed. This ridge is a hinge, Bouck thinks, stamping his boots against the numbing creep of frost. Swing it wrong, and the door to the moose flies open. But to his men, it's just another cold perch, a vantage over the road that funnels east to west like a vein waiting to be slit. The platoon is no spit-and-polish assault team. Clerks from regimental HQ, cooks who'd rather sling hash than lead, scouts with more miles on jeeps than on marches. Platoon Vernon Halbert, 19, from Idaho's potato fields, hefts a pickaxe with shoulders broadened by hay bales, his M1 Garands slung like an old friend. Beside him, Seapel William McLaughlin, red-haired, freckled, the platoon's radio man, mutters curses as he uncoils wire through the drifts, his fingers already purpling at the tips. "Christ on a crutch, Lieutenant," McLaughlin grunts, breath pluming like dragon's fire. "This ain't recon, it's grave digging. Who's buried out here anyway? Krauts or us?" Bouck turns, his voice steady as Missouri gravel, laced with that quiet command that makes boys into men. "The ones who dig shallow, Bill? Now string that antenna high. Elsenborn needs eyes before ears." Nearby, Toner Robert Jaguar, a bespectacled clerk from Massachusetts, more at home with typewriters than triggers, fumbles his entrenching tool, the blade glancing off frozen soil. Snow yields grudgingly, turning to muddied slush under the assault, sucking at boots like reluctant lovers. Jaguar's carbine dangles from his shoulder, a lightweight M1 that feels leaden in the chill. "What am I doing here?" he wonders, the thought a numb prickle up his spine. Pushing paper in St. Albans, that's what. Not this white hell. The men work in a loose semicircle, foxholes staggered along the ridge's forward slope, Shallow slits fortified with pine boughs and logs dragged from the woodline. Sentries post at intervals, one on the road below, another in the skeletal ruins of a barn overlooking Lanzerath's cluster of roofs. Ammo crates thump into place, Garands racked like grim sentinels, bandoliers draped over branches heavy with rime. The wind keens through the evergreens, a low moan that carries the distant rumble of something awakening. Trucks, guns, but it's swallowed by the forest's ancient hush. Majgen Courtney Hodges, V-Corps commander, has wired the order from his HQ in Luxembourg. Hold at all costs. It's a phrase that hangs in the air like cordite, unspoken but felt. The 99th, fresh off the lines near the Roar River, is the thin blue line here. 2 regiments forward, gaps wide enough to swallow divisions. Reinforcements? A pipe dream in this fog-bound maze. Bouck knows it. His men sense it in the brass's silence. By 0800, the entrenchments take shape. A ragged arc of earth and timber, camouflaged with snow-dusted nets that blend man into the ridge's bony contour. Bouck paces the line, adjusting fields of fire, whispering fire discipline like a bedtime prayer. Short bursts, boys. Make every round a ghost story for Jerry. Vernon Halbert pauses, wiping sweat melt from his brow despite the freeze, his rifle cradled like a newborn. You think they're coming, sir? Or is this just brass playing fox and hounds? Bouck meets his gaze, the wind tugging at his helmet's strap. They're always comin', Vern. Question is, do we make 'em pay toll? A ripple of nods, half-hearted but hardening. These are boys, average age 19, thrust from basic sandbox into the Ardennes maw. They share cigarettes passed hand to frozen hand, the tobacco's acrid bite cutting the pine sap's sweetness. Jokes flicker like muzzle flashes. McLaughlin mimicking a Jersey diner waitress, Jaguar sketching caricatures in the snow with bayonet tip. Bonds forge in the frost. Green resolve tempered by the ridge's weight, this ancient earth that has watched Gauls and Teutons clash, now demanding its toll from Yanks in olive drab. Sentry Ptour Eugene Gerasi hung the barn's loft, a splintered eyrie of rotted beams and hay-stuffed shadows. His Garand rests on a sill, scope fogging faintly with his exhales. Below, the town slumps under snow. A church steeple piercing the mist like a frozen finger, shuttered homes exhaling chimney ghosts. The road key to the Losheim Gap stretches east, vanishing into the woodline where Germany broods. Gerasi's fingers drum the stock, numb prickle yielding to pins and needles throb. Ma-scent gloves, he thinks, but who packs mittens for mud? A flicker in the mist catches his eye, shadows stirring, not deer, not wind. He squints, adjusts the scope. Figures, low, deliberate, khaki smocks blending with the trunks. He whistles low, a bird call signal. Below, Bouck materializes from the drifts, binocs to eyes. What you got, Gene? Movement, sir. East Road, half a click out. Looks like scouts, but they're packing heat. Rifles, maybe MP40s. Bouck sweeps the glasses. The mist parts like a veil, revealing a file of men. Fallschirmjäger, elite paratroopers of the 3rd Regiment, faces blackened, jump boots silent on the powder. 80 strong, probing vanguard for the storm to come. No tanks yet, but the rumble builds, a guttural growl from the Siegfried's throat. The platoon stirs, a ripple of steel on steel. Bolts cycled, safeties thumbed. McLaughlin hunkers by his SCR 536 radio, twisting dials in the vain hope of clarity. Static hisses like serpents. Big Red 1, this is Checker 3. Enemy contact Lanzerath Ridge, request sitrep and support. Silence, save the wind's whisper. Elsenborn HQ miles rearward, drowns in the offensive's roar, lines buckling elsewhere. Calls stacking like cordwood. Bouck lowers the binocs, his jaw a set line. Not scouts. Spearhead. He signals. Hold fire, observe. The Germans fan out oblivious, a skirmish line melting into the tree line. One pauses, lights a cigarette, flame a brief orange wound in the white. The ridge holds its breath. Snow sifts down, veiling the intruders like a merciful shroud. But the air thickens, charged with the metallic tang of impending storm. Far off, the artillery's echo fades, replaced by the low snarl of engines. Panzers, half-tracks, stirring in the valley's gut. The platoon settles into vigil, eyes straining the mist. Halbert chambers around, the Garands ping a solitary note in the hush. Jaguar clutches his carbine, knuckles whitening, the wood's grain biting into frost-nipped skin. Bouck kneels by a foxhole, sketching hasty positions in the slush. Flankers to the north, machine gun nest in the barn's shadow. We buy time, gentlemen. That's our trade today. Time for the line to wake up. A murmur of assent, voices low, laced with the bravado of the unblooded. But in their eyes, the Ardennes' ancient woodline weighs heavy, oaks and firs that have drunk the blood of empires, now arching over boys who measure manhood in clips of 30.06. The first probe fades into the fog, but the rumble grows. Shells? No. Tires on ice, treads grinding gravel beneath the snow. The SS Vanguard licks its lips, tasting the thin blue line. They sighted the spearhead in the mist. They didn't know the ridge would demand their dawn. The mist clings like a shroud, reluctant to yield the valley's secrets. Sunlight, a pallid smear through the overcast, glints off rime-encrusted branches, turning the evergreens into jagged diamonds that stab at the eye. The cold has deepened, a -10-degree vice that squeezes the marrow, turning sentries' toes to numb stubs in wool socks sodden with melt. Breath hangs in the air. Crystalline veils that frost mustaches and eyebrows, while the wind's low keen carries the faint, acrid whisper of distant cordite, artillery's aftertaste from the line's eastern fractures. On the ridge, the platoon's world contracts to this frozen arc. Foxholes like open graves, logs hauled from the woodline forming hasty parapets, snow-piled sandbags cradling rifles against the chill. The men huddle in their slits, collars turned up, gloves traded for bare hands that slap life back into fingers gone white. The crunch of boot on powder has softened to a wet suck as midday warmth, illusory, fleeting, turns upper crust to treacherous slush, boots sinking ankle-deep with each shift. Lyle Bouck moves among them like a shadow's anchor, his field jacket crusted with hoarfrost, map case tucked under arm like a talisman. At 20, he's the elder here, his Missouri drawl a steady cadence, cutting the wind's wail. History's hinge, he reflects, eyes tracing the ridge's contour, the forward slope a killing ground, reverse a hasty fallback etched in his mind's snow. One day, boys like us turn tides, or graves. But he keeps it locked, voice pitched low, orders laced with the quiet steel of a man who's read too many dispatches on too few nights. Vernon Halbert squats in his hole, Garand across knees, barrel wrapped in a sock against the damp. The rifle's weight is a comfort, its walnut stock warmed by proximity, though the metal bites cold through wool. He thumbs shells into a clip, the brass clicking like dice in a cup. 8 rounds, the Garands gospel. From Idaho's high deserts, Halbert's no stranger to solitude, but this ridge amplifies it. The woodline, 1,000 yards stare into enemy eyes, Lanzerath's rooftops below a ghost town mocking their isolation. Beside him, Robert Jaguar shares the hole, carbine cradled like a guilty secret. The clerk's spectacles fog with each exhale, world blurring to white smears. Typewriters don't jam in snow, he thinks, the thought a hollow echo as he practices dry firing. The carbines pop, a muffled cough swallowed by drifts. Jaguar's hands tremble. Not fear, not yet, but the prickle of exposure, fingers numb-tipped, trigger guard a icy ring on skin. Vern, you reckon Jerry's got coffee brewing over there? Jaguar ventures, voice a steam whisper, forcing levity to thaw the knot in his gut. Halbert snorts, a plume of vapor. Black as their hearts, Bob, and twice as bitter. Past the jerky, my guts gnawing like a 42 winter. They trade a strip of leathery beef, salt crystals melting on tongues parched by wind. It's ritual, share the salt, share the watch. Halbert's unerring eye, honed on jackrabbits at dusk, scans the tree line, while Jaguar logs sightings in a frost-rime notebook, pencil shavings curling like question marks in the slush. Across the line, Seapel William McLaughlin hunches over his radio, the SCR 536's bakelite case webbed with ice. Wires snake to the antenna, a drooping pine limb jury-rigged skyward. He cranks the hand generator, the whir a futile hymn against static snarl. Checker 3 to Big Red 1. Sitrep, enemy probes, 80+, withdrawn east. Request arty support, infantry relief, over. The ether crackles back mockery, hiss and pop, no voices. McLaughlin's freckles stand stark against paling skin, red hair matted under helmet. Brass is deaf today, he curses inwardly, twisting dials till knuckles crack. From Jersey's boardwalks, he's the platoon's pulse, words his weapon, now silenced by distance and dawn's chaos. He slaps the set, eliciting a spark that dances like St. Elmo's fire. Bouck drops into the hole, snow shedding from shoulders like dandruff from the damned. Anything, Bill? Zilch, sir, like yellin' into a blizzard. Elsenborn's probably dodging their own fireworks. Bouck nods, jaw muscles bunching under stubble. Keep at it. Every call's a nail in Jerry's coffin. He turns to the pair. Voice threading resolve through the rift. Halbert Jaeger, flank watch. Eyes on the north draw. If they loop, you ping 'em first. Aye, sir, Halbert replies, shouldering his piece. The order lands like ballast, steadying the yaw of uncertainty. These green bonds, forged in Frost's forge, bind them. Shared smokes, swap tales of stateside girls, the low rumble of laughter defying the wind. Per Eugene Gerasi and puppeter John Hogg pace their post, a shallow scrape overlooking a ravine where snow drifts mound like bleached bones. Gerasi's barn overlook yields to this exposed lip, wind whipping unchecked, carrying the metallic tang of pine sap laced with, what? Gun oil? Exhaust? The air thickens, pregnant with promise or peril. Hogg, a scout with a jeep jockey's squint, rubs gloved hands, breath fogging his scarf. Gene, you ever think 'bout after? Farm in Ohio, maybe. Corn as tall as regrets. Gerasi chuckles, a bark lost to gusts. Nah. Brooklyn stoop, Dodgers on the wireless. But first, we gotta gift wrap this ridge for Ike. Their banter is armor, thin but tenacious. Hogg's eyes, hawk sharp from woodcraft in basic, sweep the draw, spotting nothing but shadows dancing in eddies. Yet the ridge watches back. Ancient oaks, roots delving deep as Teutonic spears, whispering of battles etched in peat. Youth contrasts stark, their smooth cheeks unscarred by shrapnel against the woodline's hoary weight, bark furrowed like generals' brows. Bouck's orders ripple outward, rotations every hour to beat the frostbite's creep. Ammo tallied in whispers, clips pooled like communal blood. Water rationed from canteens crusted shut, sips burning like neat whiskey. Hold at all costs, he intones at noon muster, gathered in a snow-hollowed dell. The phrase from Hodge's wire hangs heavy, a blind faith etched in frost. Costs will pay, Bouck thinks, but not the ridge, not today. The men nod, faces masks of stoic clay, McLaughlin etching call signs in slush, Halbert citing imaginary targets, Jaeger folding a letter from home into his breast pocket, ink blurred by melt. Resolve hardens in the huddle. Not firebrand fury, but the quiet code of the GI, manhood measured in magazines fired, in the shared stare that says we're in this slush together. Piffy Martin McNally and Ralph Lend, clerks turned riflemen, share a hole deep into chest height. Walls shored with splintered fence rails. McNally brews coffee. K-ration grounds boiled in a helmet over a foxhole fire of twig and tinder, smoke veiled by snow toss. The brew steams, a bitter fog that stings eyes and warms bellies against the inward creep. Tastes like axle grease, Mart. Lenge gripes but sips deep, the heat a fleeting thaw. Better'n nothing. Remember Aachen? Rain like judgment, no fire. This here's luxury. McNally's from Philly's row houses, Lenge from Minnesota's lakes, worlds apart, now fused in this earthen womb. They trade watches, one scanning South Road where panzers might prowl, the other nursing blisters from shovel calluses. Blind faith, McNally muses, in a ridge that don't know our names. But Bouck's steady rounds, patting shoulders, murmuring good eyes, boys stoke it, turning green into grit. The rituals unfold, boots unlaced for airing, socks wrung of melt, bayonets honed on whetstones that sing like cicadas, letters read aloud in hushed tones, voices cracking on love ya, kid. Laughter punctuates, Halbert's deadpan on a brass query, Sir, if Jerry sends chocolates, do we shoot or share? Easing the tension's slow coil. Yet isolation amplifies. No overflights, no rumble of Shermans, only the wind's monologue, pines creaking like old bones, the hollow plink of icicles shedding from helmets. McLaughlin's radio spits fragments, break through at Losheim, hold, before fading to white noise. The platoon clings to hold at all costs, a mantra murmured like prayer, faith blind as the mist that shrouds their flanks. Shadows lengthen, blue veins in the snowfield, as Bouck climbs to the high point, a cairn of boulders overlooking the gap. Binocs to eyes, he charts the unseen. Probes circling like wolves, engines growling faint but insistent. They're massing, he knows, gut twisting. Below, the men stir, stiff from cold but positions manned, Garands oiled against the freeze. Steady, Lieutenant. Gerasi calls from his post, spotting Bouck's silhouette. We got the high ground. Jerry climbs, we clip coupons. Bouck waves acknowledgement, a foxhole philosopher's half-smile ghosting his lips. Courage counts, he'll tell Kershaw decades hence, gray and grinning over brandy. He had it in spades, those boys. But now in the rhyme's grip, it's raw. Resolve a flickering candle against the gale. The sun dips, a blood-orange smear bleeding into the woodline. Distant thunder builds, not storm but guns, Nebelwerfers screech, 88's cough. The ridge tenses, a bowstring drawn taut. They thought the line bent, but wouldn't break, until the barrage bent the horizon. The Ardennes exhales a sigh of steel. From the Siegfried Line's jagged teeth, the beast stirs. Kampfgruppe Peiper, Joachim Peiper's SS Wolves, 5,000 fanatics in black Panzer wraps, their king tigers and panthers idling like predators at leash's end. Peiper 29, eyes like chipped obsidian, pores over maps in a half-track's gloom, cigarette dangling from lips curled in Führer-fueled contempt. Americans, soft sleeping, he sneers inwardly, the Malmedy massacre's shadow already coiling in his gut. His thrust. Seize the roads to the Meuse, fuel dumps at Stavelot, Antwerp's throat. Behind him, the 12th SS Panzer and 3rd Fallschirmjäger, veterans of Kharkov and Crete, mass in the drifts, MP-40s slung, STG-44s cradled like lovers' throats. The vanguard probes deeper. Those 80 paratroopers from the morning, now reinforced to 150, slinking through the wood line like smoke. Mortars hump on shoulders, MG-42s broken down for the carry, buzzsaws of the Reich, 1,200 rounds a minute. The snow muffles their advance, boots sinking into powder that yields like flesh, but the air thrums. Exhaust fumes acrid against pine, track clanks faint but inexorable, a mechanical heartbeat quickening. Peiper's radio crackles. Losheim clear to Lanzerath, light resistance, scouts report ridge occupied, American rabble. He exhales smoke, a serpent's hiss. Rabble bleeds, mortar the crest, probe with infantry, panzers follow the screams. The SS shadow births in earnest. Nebelwerfers, screaming mimes rear back in the valley, tubes belching their banshee wail. Shells arc skyward, invisible scythes reaping the hush. The world erupts. At 1300 hours, the first salvo shrieks in, a sleet of steel that carpets the crest, 81mm mortars blooming black flowers in the snow. Earth heaves, a glacial shudder, pines splinter like matchsticks, shards whistling lethal as shrapnel. The ridge, that modest spine, convulses. Foxholes cave, logs hurl skyward, a rooster tail of slush and stone fountaining into the gray. Piviter Vernon Halbert flattens in his slit, helmet jammed low, the Garand clutched to chest like a shield. The blast wave slaps him, a hammer of pressure that rings ears to tinnitus, snow sifting down in gritty curtains. Closer than Aachen, he thinks. The thought a thunderclap amid the roar. Cordite's metallic tang floods nostrils, mingling with the upchurned loam's wet earth reek, a grave's promise unearthed. Down. Hug it. Litter Lyle Bouck bellows from his central hole, voice raw over the din, waving arms like semaphore in the maelstrom. Snow dusts his lashes, a rime beard framing lips set grim. At 20, he's the ridge's keel, steady amid the pitch, Missouri farm steel unbent by the barrage's bend. They want the high ground? Earn it in blood, he vows, binocs tucked safe, tallying impacts. 3 holes breached north, barn loft smoldering like a cigar stub. Seatbelt William McLaughlin cowers beside the radio, the SCR-536 bucking in its nest like a spooked colt, antenna snapped at the base. Shrapnel pings off the case, a deadly hail. Incoming! Mortars zeroed on the crest, checker 3, Mayday! He shouts into the mouthpiece, but static devours it, a white noise requiem. His freckles vanish under powder-gray pallor, fingers, numb pricks yielding to phantom burn, clutching the hand crank till blisters weep. The platoon replies in fragments, not panic's rout but the picked-off precision of the outnumbered. Her Robert Jaguar, spectacles askew, one lens cracked, spiderweb fine, peers over the lip as the barrage ebbs, a heartbeat's pause in hell's orchestra. Through the settling haze, shadows stir. SS squads, 30 strong, khaki smocks ghosting from the tree line, 200 yards downslope. They advance in bounds, crouch, fire, scuttle, MG-42's chattering prelude, green tracers lancing the white like venomous wasps. Jaguar's carbine coughs first, a 30 cal pop sharp as a fox's snap. His target jerks, a paratrooper crumpling mid-stride, MP-40 tumbling into slush. 1, Jaguar counts, the recoil a jolt through frost-stiff arms, trigger guards chill forgotten in adrenaline's thaw. Got one. Flankers north, he yells, voice cracking boy-high, but the ridge amplifies it, a clarion in the cordite fog. Halbert's Garand cracks next. The semi-autos ping-ping-ping, a metronome of death. Bolt cycles smooth, 8 rounds loosed in 8 heartbeats, dropping 2 more, 1 pitching forward face first, staining snow carmine. The rifle's report echoes off iced evergreens, a staccato thunder rolling down the slope, pinning the probe. Peter Eugene Gerasi and Per John Hogg weather the storm in their scrape, the ravine's lip a natural bulwark. Shells walk the ridge above, a seismic tattoo that loosens boulders, sending them bounding like drunk goats into the draw. Garassi's ears ring symphony sour, but his eyes, hawk clear, pick targets through the sleet. A Fallschirmjäger mortar team, tubes upended, lobbing rounds from a snow-cloaked knoll 300 yards out. "Mortars, John? Your left 50 yards." Garassi snaps, sighting down the Garand's iron, breath held to steady the bead. The wind tugs a sly thief, but he squeezes. Crack, and the spotter spins, helmet pinwheeling away, a dark silhouette folding into white. Hogg follows, his M1 barking in counterpoint, carbine ill-suited for range but eager in the breach. A loader topples, ammo crate spilling like spilled guts, the tube silenced mid-load. "That's two, they're bunchin', easy meat." Hogg whoops, a jersey whoop edged with fierce wire, but the kill steals him. Youth's contrast to the ravine's ancient scar, gouged by centuries' rains, now drinking fresh blood. The SS howl back, MG-42s unleash, a sustained ripsaw buzz that stitches the snow, bullets zipping with hornet whine, splintering a pine that topples across their line like a felled titan. Bullets pluck at Gerassi's sleeve, parting wool with hot kiss, but the foxhole holds, earth berm swallowing the sleet. Bouck's voice carries, a foxhole telegraph. "Controlled fire, let 'em close, 50 yards, then reap." He shifts to the south edge, where pretend Martin McNally and Ralph Lenge man the road overlook. McNally's bar chatters, a 20-round mag hosing lead downslope, brass ejecting in glinting arcs that freeze midair. 3 paratroopers stitch the drift, limbs akimbo, the guns recoil, a shoulder bruise blooming warm against the cold. "Reloading, Ralph, cover." McNally gasps, fingers fumbling clips, the bars wait a penance in the prickle numb. Lenge obliges, carbines spitting singles, pop, 2 more down, 1 clawing snow for cover. A red furrow in his wake. Clerks don't miss at prayer range, Lenge thinks, the absurdity of fleeting spark amid the grind. The opening salvos trade like currencies debased. SS probes falter, bodies tallying 18, then 25, the slope a charnel slope of khaki rags and abandoned gear. Knapsacks burst, canteens spilling brackish water that ices in rivulets. Pipers elite, hardened by Russia's ice, meet the GI's grit. Raw but resolute, Garands bait en-bloc clips cycling with mechanical prayer, the empty clink more omen than omen. The barrage renews, a second wave. Heavier now, 105s from hidden batteries, shells shrieking Doppler descent, cratering the central arc. A direct hit vaults Pew James Murphy from his hole, shrapnel raking his leg, a red ribbon unfurling down boot leather. He crawls to cover, cursing low, the pain a distant burn under morphine's haze. "Medkit, gimme the sulfa," he hisses to neighbor Put. Joe Madigan, who binds the gash with trembling hands, powder-puffing white. Bouck darts through the chaos, low-crawling the line, assessing. 5 wounded, foxholes half-filled with ejecta, but the arc holds, staggered fire lanes unbreached. McLaughlin's radio, miraculous attacked, spits a fragment. V-Corps, hold Elsenborn, no relief. The words chill deeper than wind, isolation's blade twisting. "We're the Cork boys." Bouck rallies, voice carrying over the tail end booms. "They want the bottle? Over our corpses." The men grunt affirmatives, faces grimed masks, Halbert reloading with ritual calm, Giguere wiping blood, not his from bayonet. The platoon's replies pick off stragglers. A sniper in the barn's shadow bags a flanking scout at 400 yards. The 1903s crack a scalpel slice. Ammo ebbs not yet, but the count whispers. Clips husbanded, bar drums half spent. Below, the SS regroups. Pipers thrust recoils, paratroopers slinking to cover, dragging wounded whose moans thread the wind like barbed wire. Radios buzz orders. Ridge fortified, infantry stalled, request Panzer support. Engines growl anew. Deeper in the gap, half-tracks mounting 20mm flak, probing for weakness. Twilight bleeds in, a bruised purple staining the snow, shadows pooling like spilled ink. The woodline stirs, more shapes, bolder now, the elite's second wave, 200, mortars resupplied, MG nests dug hasty in drifts. The air hums with their malice, wind-whipped whispers carrying guttural commands, the tang of schnapps on breath. On the ridge, sentries strain eyes grown raw, Garands barrels cooling to frost blue. The hollow click of a dry chamber tests one. Vacher Lenges, a skipped reload, more ominous than onrush, wind sighing through the bolt like a ghost's regret. The assault that howled in wind was about to howl at their door. Crepuscular cold descends like a pall, the Ardennes' gray hush deepening to indigo bruise. The sun's embers gutter on the horizon, casting long shadows that pool in the drifts like spilled oil, turning the snowfield into a fractured mirror of slate and silver. Temperature plummets further, -12 Celsius now. The wind a scalpel slicing through glove seams, flaying skin to raw pink. Fingers once numb prickled, now throb with the dull ache of exposure. Trigger guards etched with frost. Barrels webbed in rime that cracks like eggshell under the wipe of sleeves. The air hangs heavy with the night's toll. Cordite's lingering bite, mingled with the coppery undernote of blood freezing in shallow pools, pine sap's resinous counterpoint of faint mercy. The 20-hour siege uncoils in relentless waves, the ridge at Anvil under SS Hammer. Kampfgruppe Peiper's thrust, balked but unbroken, commits fully. 500 now in the assault. Fallschirmjäger leavened with SS Panzer Grenadiers from the 12th Division, their half-tracks grinding forward on the road below, 20mm flak cannons traversing like blind cyclops. Mortars renew their sermon, screech and bloom, while MG-42 nests, emplaced in hasty snow walls 150 yards downslope, stitch the crest with leaden lace, bullets whining off boulders with petulant ricochet. Lyle Bouck, etched in the fading light like a sepia daguerreotype, low crawls the line, his breath a ragged steam engine. At 20, his face, boy-smooth save for the stubble's shadow, bears the siege's stamp, eyes sunk in hollows, lips cracked parchment. Time's our currency, he thinks, the inner litany of frost-forged mantra, and we're overdrawn. V-Corps' silence endures, McLaughlin's radio a tomb of static, but the ridge endures too. Flanks buckling, yet the arc intact, a threadbare thread holding the hinge. The flank falls first, a slow crumple under weight of numbers. PV-Team, Eugene Gerasi and PV-Tier John Hoggs scrape, battered by a flanking probe through the ravine. 20 paratroopers, silent as specters, looping under cover of the woodline's eaves, yields ground grudgingly. Karashi's Garand barks defiance, dropping 3 in the gloom. One mid-leap, silhouette crumpling like wet paper, the crack echoing hollow off iced trunks. But ammo ebbs, clips spent, the en-block's metallic clink a dirge as he thumbs the last 8 home, bolts hollow slide more omen than omen. John, fall back, link with the barn nest, Gerasi shouts, voice frayed wire over the buzzsaw chatter, a bullet creasing his helmet's crown, parting hair with hot graze. Blood trickles warm, a brief thaw before the wind ices it to gum. Hog fires from the hip, carbines spitting fireflies into the dusk. 2 more SS pitching forward, faces masks of surprise, youth like theirs, twisted in the fall. On you, cover in. He backpedals, boots sloshing slush, the ravines slope a treacherous slide that sucks at ankles like bog. They retreat in bounds, leapfrogging foxholes now abandoned, the north edge fraying like cloth under shears. Gerasi hauls a wounded comrade, Benor Joe Madigan, leg a mangled ruin from shrapnel's kiss. Over shoulder, the dead weight of penance, Madigan's moans a wind-whipped whisper, "Leave me?" Ridge. But they don't. The flanks fall ripples. SS consolidate the draw, mortarmen humping tubes upslope, zeroing on the central arc. The woodline, that ancient sentinel, watches indifferent, oaks groaning under shell bursts, branches shedding snow in avalanches that bury deer and ghosts alike. PV Vernon Halbert anchors the core, his foxhole a charnel nest. Spent casings mounded like brass dunes, Garand's barrel smoking ghost in the chill. He's tallied 12 kills by his pebble count, each drop a stone flipped in the slush, but the ebb presses, clips down to half, every shot a calculus of range and regret. A grenadier squad crests the 100-yard line, potato mashers arcing black against the gloaming, blasts cratering earth that rains clods on his helmet. Halbert's rifle sings, ping ping ping, the semi-auto's rhythm a dirge for the dead. 2 down, then 3, bodies tumbling in tangled sprawl, 1 clawing snow with bayonet fixed please. The recoil jars his shoulder, a blooming bruise, but he cycles on, the empty chambers click, on the 9th round skipped, hollow as a heart stutter, wind sighing through the bolt like fate's exhale. Vern, your left, bazooka! Fitter Robert Jaguar warns from adjacent slit, his carbine a popgun counterpoint, spectacles fogged and askew, one arm bound hasty with field dressing, grazed by ricochet, blood-seeping wool. Jaguar looses a burst, felling a charger at 50 yards, the man's scream a guttural yelp cut short by Slush's embrace. Below, a half-track lumbers into view. STKFC 251, canvas flapping like raven wings, mounting a 37mm gun that traverses with hydraulic whine. The first shell whistles high, bursting in the tree line with oak shatter, but the second walks the line. Crater beside McNally's bar nest, hurling him backward in a spray of limbs and lead. Gunner down. Bazooka, where's the goddamn tube? Seatbelt Sir William McLaughlin roars from his radio hollow, the SCR-536 now secondary to survival, its case pocked with dents. He snatches Puffter Ralph Lenge's Thompson, borrowed in the melee, and hoses the track, 45 slugs pinging armor like hail on tin, buying seconds as the vehicle stalls, treads spinning futile in the drift. Bouck materializes in the fray, low silhouette against the muzzle stabs, directing fire like a conductor in Inferno. Concentrate, hull down, Halbert, Jaeger, flank the gunner. His voice, Missouri gravel ground finer by fatigue, threads the chaos, steadying the yaw. But the siege grinds on, assaults cascade in the crepuscular cold, SS waves breaking on the ridge like surf on reef, 50 then 80, probing flanks now held by thread, central holes deepened with the night's labor, piled with the slain's detritus, helmets buckled, packs rifled for ammo that yields nothing but sardine tins and letters in crabbed Teutonic. The road overlook crumbles under Panzer weight. Peter Martin McNally, bar reclaimed and smoking, lays down a base of fire, 20 rounds mag dump stitching the approach, brass arcing hot into snow where it hisses and blackens. 5 grenadiers fall in the killing zone, limbs akimbo, but the half-track presses, 37mm barking spite. Shell bursts short, shrapnel raking Lenge's position, embedding in thigh with barbed kiss. Ralph, hold, meds incoming, McNally bellows, but the ebb claims, ammo drums dry, the bars bolt locking back with ominous clank, chamber empties echo louder than the onrush. Lenge drags himself rearward, tourniquet biting flesh, leaving McNally to club a border with rifle butt, face pulped in the melee, SS eyes glazing in the flash. Bouck counters, shifts 2 from center. Pinu James Murphy, legs splinted crude, hobbling on crutch of branch, to plug the breach. Claymores if we had 'em. Bottleneck the road, he orders, voice a whip crack, but it's grit alone. Bayonets fixed, grenades husbanded like last rites. The south flank teeters, SS consolidating the hamlet below. Lanzerath's roofs now pocked with bullet stars, church steeple toppled like a drunkard's finger. Wounded pile in the aid station, a hasty dell rearward, tarps strung against wind, lit by chemlight's sickly green. Peter Madigan moans cadence with the blasts, sulfa powder clotting wounds that weep yellow, while corpsmen Lieutenant Ken Johnson, cook turned healer, threads needles with fingers blue stiff. Hang on, Joe, Ridge ain't done with you yet. The air reeks of iodine and voided bowels, Frost claiming toes to black nubs, but they bind, they banter. Jerry's got better aim than my ex, tenacity's thin red line drawn in plasma. Dawn's false promise grazed the east, a pallid smear veiling Bouck's 21st birthday in iron shroud. The siege crests, final wave, 300 SS in hand-to-claw fury, panzers grinding past the road's bend, engines roar drowning the wind's wail. Flanks fallen north and south, the arc contracts to core, a dozen holes, ammo's ebb a tide out, Garand's dry clicking symphony, Thompson's clattering empty, grenades spent in roiling blasts that scar the snow with black blooms. Halbert down to bayonet, parries a lunge in the foxhole melee, steel on steel ring, SS paratroopers eyes wild camelback, breath reeking schnapps in fear. He thrusts, hilt deep, the man gurgling collapse, hot spills soaking wool. Come on, you bastards! Halbert roars, voice raw as the wound, but the press overwhelms. Bodies pile in the slits, living and dead a tangle, the ridge a charnel ridge, where youth meets ancient wood in blood wedlock. Jaeger clubs with carbine stock, spectacles lost in the scrum, world blurred to motion and malice, a boot to gut, elbow to jaw, the hollow thud of fist on flesh more intimate than shot. McLaughlin wields the radio antenna like spear, impaling a charger, static hissing final epitaph. Bouck, central, fires his 45 till slide locks, 5 rounds, 5 drops, then draws saber from map case, anachronisms gleam, parrying bayonets in the flashpan cold. The climax freezes, SS overrun the crest and bayonets bite, hand to claw in crepuscular cold, fingers clawing throats, knives finding gaps in gear, the ridge's snow churned to pink slush under boot and blade. Over 100 lie tally, SS dead a testament to the thin line's toll. But the revelation dawns and the final stands Frost. Not victory's trumpet, but delay's quiet thunder. Panzers funneled past, the Bulge's spear dulled by hours, bought in blood. Bouck's last order, whispered amid the melee. Fall back, no hold, for the line. But the tide claims, bayonets at throats, hands raised in the gray hush, rifles dropped with clatter that echoes like spent shells on snow. The wind keens requiem, pines standing sentinel over the taken crest. It didn't relent when it closed. It simply claimed what frost couldn't kill. The gray hush of dawn breaks over captured crests, a veil of pearl light that softens the ridge's scars but cannot erase them. Snow, churned to pink-rutted slush by boot and blade, gleams with the night's residue. Spent shells winking like false stars, fallen forms half buried in drifts that mound over the slain like indifferent cairns. The wind, spent from its wail, sighs now, a low requiem through the pines, carrying the faint, acrid ghost of cordite mingled with the iron tang of blood, frozen fast in crystalline webs. Temperature holds at -8 cells, a cruel mercy after the night's nadir. Frost's numb prickle yielding to the raw throb of wounds exposed to the creeping light. Capture's chill clasp descends, not with fury's roar, but the quiet click of rifle bolts drawn back. SS paratroopers, faces gaunt masks under helmet rims, eyes hollowed by the toll, encircling the remnant platoon with bayonets glinting dawn dull. Over 100 of their brothers litter the slope, a butcher's tally that hangs in the air like unspoken accusation. But the victor's hands tremble on triggers, breaths pluming white flags of exhaustion. Litter Lyle Bouck stands amid the foxholes, 45 holstered empty, saber sheathed in surrender's irony. His 21st birthday veiled in irons, the Missouri farm boy's quiet steel uncracked, though his voice, when it comes, is a gravel whisper scraped raw by the siege. No more blood today, Bouck says, hands raised slow, deliberate, meeting the SS Hauptsturmführer's gaze, a boy killer from Peiper's pack, uniform spattered with the ridge's defiance. The German nods curt, a flicker of respect in the exhaustion, barking orders in clipped guttural. Disarm, hands high, march. The platoon, 18 no more, 5 wounded lashed to makeshift litters of rifles and packs, shuffles into line. Garans and carbines dropped with hollow clatters that echo like final heartbeats on the snow. Platoon Vernon Halbert, bayonet-gashed arm bound with his own belt, spares a glance for the slope. Bodies twisted in khaki and feldgrau, the thin red lines testament frozen in place. We bought dawn, he thinks, the revelation a distant thunder in his chest. The Panzers, delayed a day, grinding past the road below, their thrust blunted, the Bulge's salient straining against time's hinge. P-Team Robert Jaguar, spectacles recovered cracked but wearable, clutches his side where a rib protests the march. The clerk's world blurred not just by glass, but by the hollow click of chambers now silenced forever. CPL or William McLaughlin shoulders the radio's corpse, antenna bent like a broken antenna, its static silenced. Checker 3, off air, he mutters to no one, the words a private epitaph, freckles stark against grime. They strip the dead, SS and GI alike, for maps, watches, the grim forage of the captured. But the ridge yields no solace, only the crunch of boot on shell shard, wind whispered as they descend into Lanzerath's ghost streets, church steeple, a splintered accusation pointing skyward. The POW shadows lengthen under guards' prods, a ragged column snaking east through drifts that suck at boots like reluctant graves. SS half-tracks rumble flank, engines growl a mocking counterpoint to the platoon's labored breaths, wounded jolting on litters that drag furrows in the slush. Before Eugene Geraci limps beside John Hogg, the pair's banter reduced to glances, Brooklyn's stoop and Ohio farm a lifetime from this iron leash. Think Ike knows, Hogg whispers, voice a steam thread as a guard's rifle butt nudges him forward. He will. We carved it in snow, Geraci replies, the faith blind no more, forged in the glacial grind. The march stretches, miles to the railhead at Crinkelt, feet blistering anew in boots caked with yesterday's melt, frost-nipped toes blackening under wool. They pass the spearhead's wake, Panzers churning mud to mire, fuel Bowsers stalled in the gap, Peiper's elite cursing the delay that dooms the Blitz. A day lost. Elsenborn Ridge alerted, V-Corps' thin blue line thickening with borrowed Brits and battle babies rallied, the salient sealed before it bulges fatal. Madgen, Courtney Hodges, in his Luxembourg CP, pours dispatches by lamplight. Lanzerath held 20 hours. Unknown patrol. Casualties light. Hours. His fist clenches paper, the order hold at all costs, repaid in full, though the cost tallies grim. The platoon's silence on the ether, a void filled by rumor. There stand the hinge that cost Hitler 80,000 lives in the Bulge's maw. The column halts at a barn-loft stalag feeder, hasty pens of wire and woe, where gray-clad Wehrmacht process the intake. Names barked, tags stamped, wounds probed with indifference. Bouck, separated as officer, endures the pat-down alone, fingers rifling pockets for letters that yield a Missouri snapshot. Farmhouse white under harvest sun, a talisman against the chill. Courage counts, he reflects, the phrase a seed for post-war toasts in spades for those boys. The platoon scatters. Enlisted to boxcars bound for Stalag 4B near Mühlberg, officers to Auflag 13B in Hamelberg, odysseys of frost and famine, Red Cross parcels bartered for smokes, whispers of the ridge traded like contraband lore. Shadows of captivity deepen, wooden bunks tiered like gallows, straw pallets alive with vermin that nibble numb flesh, the air a feder of unwashed bodies and latrine slop. Halbert, arms slung in crude plaster, shares a bunk with Jaeger, the pair's foxhole bond transplanted to this wooden cage. Rations, turnip soup thin as regret, dole out in tin bowls, the slurp a communal rhythm against the wind's howl through chinked walls. McLaughlin, radio man no more, crafts a crystal set from wire and razor blade, tuning BBC whispers, bulge contained. Bastogne holds. The delay's thunder rolls distant, a validation in code, Eisenhower's Christmas dispatch lauding the unknowns who blunted the black tide. "That's us, Bob," Halbert murmurs one eve, as searchlights rake the compound like accusatory fingers. 18 clerks and cooks rewrite the map. Jaeger nods, spectacles mended with tape, the clerk's ledger, now a diary etched with boot nail. Tallies of the siege, sketches of the slope. Ridge spat us back. Jerry couldn't swallow whole. Laughter flickers, hushed defiant, as guards pace, Mauser slings creaking. Wounds fester in the damp. Gerassi's grazed a pus-rimmed scar, Lenge's thigh a limp's legacy. But morale thaws in the shared code. Tales retold till voices crack. The hollow click of empty chambers, a punchline turned legend. Liberation creeps with spring's rumor. Patton's Third Army thunders west, the Bulge's scar healing in counterpunch. On April 23, 1945, Yanks breach the wire. Tanks grinding gates, GIs with grins and gum, finding the platoon gaunt but grinning, Halbert trading his sketch for a Hershey bar. "Lanzerath boys," Bouck announces to the liberators, voice steady as ever, the Missouri steel polished by survival. They emerge into May's verdant thaw, the Ardennes, white hell yielding to green shoots piercing the peat, freedom's forge hammering the POW shadows to heroes' gleam. Metal's thaw arrives under summer sun, the Rhines gleam a counterpoint to the ridge's rhyme. The 99th Division assembles in olive ranks, brass gleaming, as General Omar Bradley pins the Distinguished Service Cross to Bouck's chest. A gold starburst for conspicuous gallantry, the citation rolling like thunder. Held against overwhelming odds? Delayed enemy advance, pivotal to the defensive success. Silver stars cascade for the platoon, all 18, living testament, ribbons blood-stripped, clasped amid cheers that echo hollow for the absent, 3 dead in the melee, their foxholes eternal. Bouck accepts with quiet nod, eyes tracing the ranks, Halbert's arms scarred proud, McLaughlin's freckles sun-freckled anew, Jaeger's spectacles polished bright. For the ridge, he toasts later in a stateside VFW hall, brandy snifters raised to the code, boys who measured manhood in magazines fired, now etched in eternity. The Bulge's unsung saviors, their stand the pivot that turned overreach to rout, Hitler's last roar choked in the snows of Lanzerath. Decades hence, Alex Kershaw's quill resurrects the saga. A graying Bouck, 80 now, Missouri drawl softened by years, leans over tea in a sunlit den, the farm boy's eyes still flint-sharp. Kershaw, post-war scribe with a nose for the overlooked, tapes the interviews, courage counts. He had it in spades, Bouck says of his men, voice cracking on names, Vernon, William, Robert. The longest winter takes shape on pages yellowed with time. The ridge's requiem, foxhole fortress that held back the Reich's dying gasp, fragile lives buying time with blood. Tours etch eternity, descendants tread the slope, now a monument of mossy stone, plaques whispering the toll. 18 rifles, 20 hours, a day that doomed the salient. Survivors like Bouck, D. 2016, toast anniversaries yearly, glasses raised December 16th, the winds sigh through pines of familiar kin. Halbert passes in 09, Jaeger in 12, their POW marches footnotes to freedom's forge, but the echo endures. A glass lifted in Belgian bars, honoring the 18 who turned snow to stone. The stand didn't just delay panzers, it delayed despair. They held what others fled and handed allies the hinge of history. Valor doesn't always charge. Sometimes it chills in place to conquer. In war, the mightiest barrier isn't steel, It's the silence of spent shells on snow. They thought the Bulge swallowed men whole, but the ridge spat back legends. If you believe 18 rifles can rewrite battles, subscribe for more untold World War II stands of the snowbound.